This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust that you'll consider this like your vitamin and supplement for your heart and mind. And wherever you receive podcasts, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review, and I would be so appreciative, and it'll help others to find it. Today, I want to talk about the word persuasion. It's one of the secret weapons available to a leader. We might even say it's the leader's superpower. There is a power in persuasion. We don't mind, any of us. All of us are open to be persuaded. We're not very open to being bludgeoned to death. And do not confuse persuasion with coercion. Now, if I'm going to be a persuasive leader, what has to be going on in my heart and mind? We've all known leaders who were really good at guiding us. Several come to mind who I have had in my lifetime. Someone said we've also met bad leaders who were actively misguiding people. But leadership is really about these three words. And because of the way that I was trained, I love alliteration. And it is persuasion, presentation, and people skills. If there are three things that leaders desperately need, it is the ability to persuade, not to coerce, not to bludgeon, not to beat people with our words to death. We need to be able to present the truth, to be able to make a case for what we think, what we believe, and the direction that we want to go. And more importantly, we need to have people skills. We need to learn how to get along with people. Now, all of us have encountered people that just refuse to get along. I'm not talking about them. I have this test that I try to run everything through. How would a reasonable person respond to this? How would a reasonable person hear this information? That's the person we need to be concerned about, the reasonable person, not the unreasonable person. So out of persuasion and presentation and people skills, let's talk today a little bit about the first one, persuasion. The first thing, as you are trying to make a case and you are trying to persuade a group of people, there's one question they are asking themselves immediately. And that is the person speaking, is the person making the presentation, are they reliable and credible? You see, people don't just listen to the words we speak. They look to the kind of person we are. Do we have competency? Do we, in fact, know what we're talking about? Some people just bloviate and go on and on and on, and when they're done, you're not even sure they really understand what they're talking about. Usually, the longer the speech, the less the person knows about the subject. Now, that's not always true, but I found it to be a good rule of thumb. Your relationships are important. If you're leading at work, you aren't just a master and they're not your servants. We need to be in relationship. Now, I understand that you can read some books that say don't make friends with the people you lead. I don't happen to subscribe to that. It's easier to lead people that you're in relationship with. And what are those relational kinds of persuasive skills? Listen. Again, I've been late to the game in listening. I've spent a lot of time talking and telling people what to do and how to think. And yet it is through listening. Matter of fact, the best way to persuade people is with your ears. For many years, I thought the best way to persuade people was with my mouth, only to discover later in life that the most persuasive tool available to me is my ears. Am I willing to listen? Am I willing to not just listen, but am I willing to hear? Am I willing to see what they have to, what are their ideas? Some of the best ideas I have, some of the most original ideas I have, I got from someone else. No one of us, even if you are the leader, there is no one of us that's as smart as all of us. And there are times when I've been in committee meetings and said thus and so, and this is the direction, and this is how it's all going to be, that someone has brought up a question or an issue or a what if? What if we do this instead of that? And your immediate thought is, that is brilliant. Let's do that. A few years ago, I went to meet with a board that was exceedingly irritated. And they were angry and they were upset. I had to spend about 2 hours listening to them. Do you know why I had to spend 2 hours listening to them? Not just because it was the right thing to do and they needed to be valued and listened to. I had to spend 2 hours listening to them because their own leader refused to listen to them for 5 minutes. And if you refuse to listen to people, and if you refuse to hear them out, the problems only get larger. I think a part of listening is you have to create a safe environment. Are you a person? People want to know. They may not say it, but they're thinking it, and they are more than likely feeling it. Is our leader a safe person to talk with? Will he or she hold the confidence? If I go on their turf and talk to them, is it a safe environment? Do you allow them space to adjust? You know, oftentimes we send out bulletins or we send out missives saying this is the way it's going to be. Here's the truth, walk ye therein. I'm not talking about the Bible, I'm talking about some pronouncement we make. Do we give people adequate lead time to adapt to what's going to happen? Do we allow them space for grace to grow, to change, to adapt, and to adopt? And then if you're going to be persuasive, they not only want to know, are you reliable and are you a credible person? They want to know, do you really understand? Do you know what it's like to be in my position? Do you know what it's like to live my life? Now, the short answer, of course, to all of that is we don't know. We don't know what we don't know, and that's what makes most of us dangerous. But can we try with empathy to seek to understand? Do we let people know, not only do I expect that you can change, I want you to know I'm open to change. If I see that I'm wrong, if I see there's a better way, if someone in the organization or the family brings me information and I ponder it and think about it and pray over it, I'm going to be the first one willing to say, hey, I'll change. That's a better idea. Let's do that. There are some leaders who just sort of closet themselves away from everyone. Now, I understand that there are times, depending on what kind of things you're leading, where you need to have downtime, me time, think time, meditating time. I get all of that. But I never trust a leader who is never available to the people they're leading, or they're only available to a very select few, a hand-picked few. Can people, when they have a concern, can they have an audience with you? Can they meet with you? This goes in to your being able to persuade people if they realize you are available. If you're going to be a persuasive person, one thing that you have to actually do, you actually have to have facts and data to back up what you're saying. I mean, I'm all for hunches and intuition. I'm sort of an intuitive person, but you can't go through life living on pure intuition and pure gut level decision making. You do have to have data and facts on your side as you understand them. So when you're trying to persuade somebody, you should ask yourself, is it factual? Well, I think in that, and especially as you would all know that I am a preacher, I can't persuade anyone to believe what I'm believing if I don't really believe it. I have to believe it to the core of my being. And wherever it is that you're leading, you have to really believe in what you're doing. Have you considered the objections? When you're getting ready to make a presentation and you're trying to persuade, have you considered objections? Most of us come down like we think we're Moses coming down from Mount Sinai with the tablets from the Lord. And therefore, who could object? Why would there anyone object to such a marvelous program that I have come up with? But you're never going to be persuasive if you don't take a step back and bring in trusted colleagues, bring in people in the workforce, whoever it is that are confidants, and say to them, this is what I believe we ought to do, and I want you to blow holes in it. I want you to help me see the blind spots. I want you to help me see things that I don't see. What would you do if you were hearing this for the first time? What would your question, comments, but more importantly, your objections? I have found when I have exercised it this way, that I really honed my thinking. I really got laser focused when I had to address objections. And oftentimes it forces you to recalibrate and to tweak and to make adjustments. Are there other dynamics at work in your organization that you need to be aware of? What are the politics? I'm not talking about the politics of a particular country. I'm talking about in your organization. And if you think there aren't politics where you work and live, you're again a candidate for delusional of the year. The fact is, politics doesn't mean Republican or Democrat or socialist or whatever. What politics, generally the word means the way we do things. And I can tell you, for having worked in a few organizations, every organization has a culture and they have a way that they do things, and you must make sure you know that. Do you have the emotional wherewithal to be okay when people disagree with you? You're not going to be persuasive if you fly off the handle, if you're thin-skinned, if you can't take a criticism, if you can't even take helpful suggestions. You need to get yourself in a better emotional state, leader, where you can do that. And have you provided, as you're persuading, have you provided the reason why? People are oftentimes not persuaded by your presentation, but they're persuaded by the why behind it. What is the goal? What is the burden? What is the mission? And one thing, by bringing people along to help them, oftentimes they are more persuaded by just ruminating and thinking on it than by you and I just continually hammering away with our words. Another thing, if you are the leader of an organization, that I think is critical and crucial in the area of persuasion, as you get ready to make a presentation and begin to try to persuade people to follow a particular plan, forget who you are and don't just make the presentation as the authority figure, meaning, i.e., I'm the boss and you have to do what I say. That will cause more resistance in our culture today than about any other thing. Here's what I try to do. Just say I'm somebody here. I'm not the leader. And forget my authority. Can I make a credible case for what I'm trying to do based on data, truth, our mission, our goal set, and what we need to get done? Or am I only able to make this presentation because I'm the boss and you have to do what I say? So I think one of the greatest tools you have available to you, leader, is persuasion, and your presentation, and your love for people, and your people skills. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on goal setting, leadership, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust that today this has been like a vitamin or a supplement for your heart and mind. And wherever you receive podcasts, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom and leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable others to be able to find it. Now remember, my leadership friend, wherever you are and whoever you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.